While probably the most important chapter in the life of David is the Lord's promise to him to make him a house that will last forever. That is, the kingdom promise that God gave David. Yet the most popular stories that we know of David are one of victory, the story of Goliath, and of failure, when David committed adultery and then committed murder to follow it up. He is the king. No one can reprimand him. Anyone who raised charges against him is in a very dangerous situation, because the power of the king is absolute. But the Lord is not pleased with David, for instead of going to war with his army, David had stayed home. Walking on his rooftop, he'd spied a woman bathing. She was very beautiful, and so he called her to him. They made love. She became pregnant, and when he found out, he orchestrated the death of her husband. And after a suitable period of mourning, he brought her into his house as his wife, and she bore him a son. Then the Lord sent Nathan to David, and he came to him and said to him, "There were 2 men in one city, one rich and the other poor. The rich man had exceedingly many flocks and herds, but the poor man had nothing except one little ewe lamb, which he had bought and nourished, and it grew up together with him and with his children. It ate of his own food, and drank from his own cup, and lay in his bosom, and it was like a daughter to him. And a traveller came to the rich man, who refused to take from his own flock and from his own herd, to prepare one for the wayfaring man who had come to him. But he took the poor man's lamb, and prepared it for the man who had come to him." So David's anger was greatly aroused against the man, and he said to Nathan, "As the Lord lives, the man who has done this thing is a son of death. And he shall restore fourfold for the lamb, because he did this thing, and because he had no pity." Then Nathan said to David, "You are the man. Thus says the Lord God of Israel, I anointed you king over Israel, and I delivered you from the hand of Saul. I gave you your master's house, and your master's wives into your keeping, and gave you the house of Israel and Judah. If that had been too little, I also would have given you much more. Why have you despised the commandment of the Lord to do evil in his sight? You have killed Uriah the Hittite with the sword. You have taken his wife to be your wife, and have killed him with the sword of the people of Ammon. Now therefore the sword shall never depart from your house, because you have despised me, and have taken the wife of Uriah the Hittite to be your wife. Thus says the Lord, Behold, I will raise up adversity against you from your own house, and I will take your wives before your eyes, and give them to your neighbour, and he shall lie with your wives in the sight of this sun. For you did it secretly, but I will do this thing before all Israel, before the sun." So David said to Nathan, "I have sinned against the Lord." And Nathan said to David, "The Lord also has put away your sin. You shall not die. However, because by this deed you have given great occasion to the enemies of the Lord to blaspheme, the child also who is born to you shall surely die." Then Nathan departed to his house. And the Lord struck the child that Uriah's wife bore to David, and it became ill. David therefore pleaded with God for the child, and David fasted and went in and lay all night on the ground. So the elders of his house arose and went to him to raise him up from the ground, but he would not, nor did he eat food with them. Then on the 7th day it came to pass that the child died. And the servants of David were afraid to tell him that the child was dead, for they said, "Indeed, while the child was alive we spoke to him, and he would not heed our voice, how can we tell him that the child is dead? He may do some harm." When David saw that his servants were whispering, David perceived that the child was dead. Therefore David said to his servants, "Is the child dead?" And they said, "He is dead." So David arose from the ground and washed and anointed himself and changed his clothes, and he went into the house of the Lord and worshipped. Then he went to his own house, and when he requested, they set food before him, and he ate. Then his servants said to him, "What is this that you have done? You fasted and wept for the child while he was alive, but when the child died, you rose and ate food." And he said, "While the child was alive, I fasted and wept. For I said, who can tell whether the Lord will be gracious to me, that the child may live? But now he is dead, why should I fast? Can I bring him back again? I shall go to him, but he shall not return to me." Then David comforted Bathsheba his wife, and went in to her and lay with her. So she bore a son, and he called his name Solomon. Now the Lord loved him, and he sent word by the hand of Nathan the prophet. So he called his name Jedidah, because of the Lord. Now Joab fought against Rabbah of the people of Ammon, and took the royal city. And Joab sent messengers to David and said, "I have fought against Rabbah, and I have taken the city's water supply. Now therefore gather the rest of the people together, and encamp against the city, and take it, lest I take the city, and it be called after my name." So David gathered all the people together, and went to Rabbah, fought against it, and took it. Then he took the king's crown from his head. Its weight was a talent of gold, with precious stones, and it was set on David's head. Also he brought out the spoil of the city in great abundance. And he brought out the people who were in it, and he put them to work with saws and iron picks and iron axes, and made them cross over to the brickworks. So he did to all the cities of the people of Ammon. Then David and all the people returned to Jerusalem. My name's Arthur, and I thank you for joining me as we read the conclusion of the matter of David's adultery and his murder. While no one would be game to confront David, the Lord must deal with this sin, because the Lord knows about it, and people will find out. So better to deal with it sooner rather than later. And so the Lord tells Nathan to confront David with a story. And David's indignation as the judge of Israel is that this man deserves to die, and he will pay back fourfold. And so we'll see 4 of David's sons die prematurely, beginning with this child. When the child dies, David says, "Can I bring him back again? I shall go to him, but he shall not return to me." So by this we learn that this child is accepted among the righteous in Abraham's bosom, also known as paradise, where David himself will go when he dies. Uriah will be honoured as one of David's mighty men. Uriah will not be forgotten for his faithfulness and commitment to the Lord and to David and to the people of Israel. Even though he is a stranger, he is a Hittite. And what is further absolutely remarkable, Nathan says, "God has forgiven your sin." David lies again with Bathsheba, now his wife, and the Lord gives her another son, Solomon, and the Lord is with this child. So he will become the next king, and he will always be one who stands apart. Jedidah, the name, means beloved of the Lord. While all this was happening, Joab is still fighting. He takes the water supply of Rabbah and calls David to lead the army as it completes the attack. And David takes the crown of the king of Ammon, and the people become his servants. It's never worthwhile to rise up against God and his people.